Welcome to NEK VT Rocks. My guest today is Josie Pearson. Josie is a high school student, and we're going to talk about that strange subject, CRT, critical race theory. We were at, I don't know what you would call an event, I guess, a couple of weeks ago. And I'm not even sure what the subject was, but it turned out to be somehow critical race theory.
I don't know either.
Which has turned into this major drama up here. It doesn't seem to anywhere else, but it certainly is up here. And Josie, you were really articulate that night.
Yeah, so it was like the Russ Ingalls meeting thing. I don't know what it was, but
this is one of our state senators, I might add.
Yes. And I also couldn't really comprehend what was going on. I showed up with kind of like an idea of maybe like what I wanted to share. Like I mostly hoped to kind of listen to what they had to say, but it was, I don't know, I just couldn't really fully comprehend what was going on because they didn't even really talk about critical race theory.
Right.
And they started talking about all these other things. And I was just incredibly confused and honestly didn't even really know how to respond because I was like, this isn't really what I like thought I had signed myself up for. And so, yeah, I went up there and I just kind of told them in a nice way that like they were kind of just rambling for the sake of rambling and that what they were saying had nothing to do with critical race theory. And it just kind of made no sense at all because it didn't.
It didn't. It's absolutely true. One of the things you said that was really interesting was that you're a high school student. You've spent a lot of years in the system and you're still in it. Is this your last year or your next to last year?
No, I'm a junior, so
You're a junior.
I got another year.
But this has not been a subject that has been on your curriculum or in your curriculum.
Literally never. The only thing that I have been taught in my history classes is like history. And like that's it. Like pretty straightforward, just like I've been taught about the history of my country and you know, that's it. So I can be like an educated citizen who
participates.
Who participates
what a novel idea.
And understands how America has like grown into what it is today. You know, and I think that like at least something that I was thinking about is like this is kind of stereotypical, but like these are the same people who are super patriotic and like you know, or like, yay, America, which, like, America is a pretty good place for the most part, I guess. But, you know, I feel like in order to be, like, a true patriotic citizen, you should be educated on the history of your country for what it is. I mean, no country has, like, a perfect background. Like, they all, like, have something crazy here or there. But, like, that doesn't mean that there weren't good things either. And it's just important to be educated on the history of your country for what it is. And that's all I've ever been taught in the school system. And so I don't really understand where the whole critical race theory thing is coming from.
Right.
But yeah, I haven't been taught that in school ever.
Do you ever get taught about equity?
Yes, like equity versus equality and all that stuff. Yes, we talked about that a lot in my AP Government and Politics class last year. But yeah.
And in a way that presumably made sense to all of you?
Yeah, pretty much.
And it wasn't something that people ran screaming out of the classroom because they felt they were being told to be ashamed of being white?
No, not at all. Yeah, I don't know. I don't have anything to say anymore, so.
It is an important subject, and I presume that equity and equality are things that you guys talk about.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, last year we haven't talked about it too much this year, but last year in my AP GoPo class, we talked about it a bit and how, like, you know, equality isn't necessarily, well, like, I mean, I guess equality is important, but, like, equity is what we're really striving for.
Yeah.
Because that means that, like, everyone is getting what they need in order to succeed instead of just being, like, everyone is given the same opportunity, but that doesn't mean they're going to have the same outcome because everyone is different and, like, you know, all of that stuff. And I mean, granted, I mean, everyone in my AP GoPo class was kind of like, I guess, more on the left side of the spectrum, you could say. So no one from that class anyway was like really upset or enraged about any of that conversation. And I have never heard at least any students say anything about like equality or equity. Like, we've talked about it, but it's not like some huge thing, I guess, that like students are like chit-chatting about all the time.
So what is it that's making the adults, because that's apparently where all the upset is coming from, what's making them so unhappy about it?
I don't even know, honestly. Like, I don't know. I don't understand where just all of it is coming from. In dance company today, I told you this earlier, but in dance company today, we were talking about, I was like, you know, telling all of my friends about the Senator, like, Russ Ingalls meeting thing. And that, like, my dance teacher, am I allowed to like disclose names on here?
If you need to, yes.
Okay, well, my dance teacher, Taryn Colby, said that it just kind of seemed like it was just like pulled out of someone's butt and that it just like came out of nowhere. And there's not even really any like valid reasoning behind it either. Like, it's just kind of like this thing that happened that doesn't make any sense, that someone made up just kind of for no reason. Because, I mean, you could ask like most students that go to North Country, at least. I mean, I guess I can't speak for like every single school ever.
Of course not.
But at least like around here, like, I don't think that any kid would say that they are being taught critical race theory at all, or that like they're inherently like bad people because they live like a privileged white life. Like, they're not being taught that at all. And I don't know. Yeah.
I mean, it's complicated because there actually is some privilege that comes with being white. And it's sort of important to acknowledge that, because how else then can you have equity if we can't acknowledge that?
Right. No, I completely agree with that. And I guess that is something that like people tend to have a hard time acknowledging, because I think that people have a hard time accepting the fact that, because I guess like when you say someone has like white privilege, like some people interpret that as like a bad thing. And like, you know, I feel like the human like natural instinct is to like not want to be bad and to like not necessarily like accept that, or maybe like be in denial of that statement. And so there are definitely some kids at my school who like don't think that they have white privilege and like all of that stuff, but like there is some level of privilege that you have because you are white, and that's not, I mean, it doesn't mean you're like a bad person.
Exactly.
No one is saying that it means you're bad. It's just like the facts.
Right.
You know, like, oh, I'm trying to think. One time, my grandma was very heated about the whole like, I think had to do with like the whole Black Lives Matter movement, and she was all heated because she was like, well, I'm not black and I grew up in this like horrible neighborhood and like I had to work really hard and blah blah blah. And I was like, right, like no one is saying that life is easy,
right,
because like you're white or anything like that, but like you like the obstacles that you have faced are not there because of your like skin color, you know. And I think people have a hard time understanding that sometimes, I guess. But.
Yes. And one of the discussions that we had in Newport, I guess a couple of years ago now, was that Newport was not recognizing Martin Luther King Day. It was not, I know, hard to believe.
Newport wasn't?
Newport wasn't, no.
Like,
it was not an official holiday, so they were scheduling things on Martin Luther King Day, and some of us raised that as a question. And it was really hard for some people to see that that could be a problem, that it's not okay not to acknowledge a day and what that day means.
Right. Wait, when was this?
2 years ago.
Really?
Really.
I didn't even know about that.
Right.
But I think that's pretty that's pretty wild. I mean, I think that we should, you know, take a day to acknowledge all of the things that Martin Luther King did.
Right.
I mean, he literally was like the face of the civil rights movement, and like
That's exactly right.
he just did like so much. He literally like went to jail for like protesting and like proceeded to like keep, you know,
Exactly. And was
standing
murdered
up
for it.
yeah, and proceeded to keep standing up for what was right until he was eventually assassinated, unfortunately.
Exactly.
And like, I just don't understand how you could not acknowledge that, because that was like, I mean, the civil rights movement was like a really big step in history, you know?
But where it became a little complicated was that because many people in this area have a Quebecois background, they felt they were discriminated against when they came into America. And it was hard to see the differences, apparently, in discrimination. That was, you know, we were picked on, so we got over it. What's the problem? It was very hard to get beyond that.
Really?
There was a big fight in Newport, yes.
Really?
And only 2 years ago.
I wasn't even aware of like was this like two years ago, like during like COVID or like right before COVID?
Before COVID.
Wow. I didn't even know that. That just kind of comes as a shock to me that like people got so upset about these things, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So where did you get your enlightened view of the world?
Probably from my mom. I mean, my mom is like a super educated, like intelligent human being, and like she's a wise soul, you could say, and she just throughout my whole entire life has educated me into having a more enlightened view of the world. And like I don't know, I just feel like she's helped me have like a more open mind about things, and like she's helped me just be smarter in general, I guess you could say. And yeah, I definitely think that she is the reason for my enlightened view on the world.
How about your own curiosity?
I mean, that too. I would also say, I would thank like some of my teachers for showing me that in the past, just because like, you know, if I didn't know any sort of like history at all, then I wouldn't really be able to have an enlightened view on the world. You know, I feel like if I didn't educate myself about like what the history of the world and this country is, I wouldn't be able to have like an enlightened or like intelligent view on the world, I guess.
And a view that clearly includes diversity.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's hard to find up here.
Most definitely. I think part of the reason actually why there are so many people up here who like, they tend to think these things, you know, that like critical race theory is being taught in schools, or like they don't support the Black Lives Matter movement, or like, you know, stuff like that. I think it's because there is no diversity around here, and they don't understand the issues for like what they really are. And like, you know, like I can't even say that I have experienced these things firsthand either, because I've been around here my whole entire life, and like it's literally 99% white people. Like that's
pretty
not
close.
an actual statistic, but you know.
Yeah, pretty close to that.
But yeah, it's hard for people to understand an issue that like has nothing to do with them, really, if you think about it. Like sometimes I feel like Newport or like the Northeast Kingdom is kind of like in its own little bubble sometimes, and it's just like kind of oblivious to like all of the other things happening around the world. And I feel like we like most of us couldn't even like imagine what it would be like for those things to like happen to us, or for it to like be happening in our community. Like it's not even like it's really happening in our community, because there's no like black people around here to really be that racist towards, I guess. And like, I just think that, you know, because of that lack of diversity, many kids don't have as great of an understanding of like how the world actually works, and that like saying the N-word isn't cool because it's like super offensive, but like they just don't seem to understand that because they've just never been in the situation where they have had to understand that. And also their parents probably have never taught them things like that either, because I mean, this is also kind of a stereotype, but a lot of people, like a lot of parents around here grew up here,
right,
you know, and also lived in the same type of environment that was like kind of closed off from the rest of the world, where you didn't really have to have that much of an open mind to like think about everything else that's happening.
And in some ways that's wonderful about the Northeast Kingdom, that we are this bubble, and we are, and it obviously, and in another way it's really challenging because people move here. Clearly, I'm not from around here.
Wait, where are you from, by the way?
Where do you think?
England? I
Where?
don't know. England?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
You're correct. The far north of England.
Oh, that's cool. Wait, when did you move here?
To the country or to the Northeast Kingdom?
Both.
To the country in 1980 and to the Northeast Kingdom 13 years ago.
Wow. Well, that's cool. That's really cool.
So I'm a real flatlander, a foreign flatlander.
You must definitely have a very broad view of the world.
I certainly have a different view of the world.
But yeah, that's awesome.
And it's one of the things it's why it intrigues me so much. That's why I was so surprised when I saw the response to critical race theory here.
Yeah, because for you, it must be like you haven't necessarily seen such close-minded people in your life. Like,
well, I mean, many of us grew up in small communities and traveled because of that. But if that hasn't been an option, then it's hard to move beyond that. And for some strange reason, it's scary if you haven't experienced something.
No, for sure. I mean, after high school, I want to book it. I really want to go live in like New York City. And I don't know, maybe I would end up coming back. Like, you know, who knows what will happen. But I definitely hope to get out at some point, because I feel like it is important for at least a period of your lifetime to like just go somewhere else and like experience the world. And once again, a lot of people around here don't do that. And I mean, part of that isn't necessarily their fault. Like, there's definitely a lot of poverty around here. Like, people can't necessarily afford to do those things, which is unfortunate. But I feel like if you have that opportunity, you should do it. Because
travel certainly broadens your perspective.
Definitely.
Have you been able to travel so far?
Honestly, I have not traveled too much. I was supposed to go to Europe last year for school, but then obviously that did not happen because of coronavirus. So we're supposed to go this spring, but like I don't know if that's gonna happen. We'll see.
It's tough. I mean, your generation is really taking a big hit from this.
Most definitely. I mean, it's honestly pretty insane. Like, and I think that, I mean, I don't mean to sound like boasty, but I think honestly sometimes teenagers don't get enough credit, and children, like especially teenagers, because we're going through like, you know, all the crazy hormonal changes already. And then you like add a whole pandemic and like months of isolation, and we're all like, what? And then like actually this school year, so last school year we like barely had any work. Like it was insane. Like there was like nothing. Like we didn't do anything. I would spend my days like taking naps because I didn't have anything to do.
That's really sad.
Yeah, it was really sad. And like, I mean, most of my friends, like, basically anyone I have talked to has said that their mental health just like declined insanely. I know mine did. Like, I just felt like I didn't want to do anything.
Right.
Because, like, you know when you, like, are so used to not doing anything that you don't want to do anything?
Yep.
And that's kind of what happened over, like, COVID quarantine times was, like, I haven't done anything for 3 months. Now I'm used to this and don't feel like doing anything else. But, it was just went from, like, doing literally nothing to doing literally everything. Like, we just went back to school and, like, there's like so much homework all the time. I don't get home until like 9 p.m. because I go to dance and stuff. Although the dance studio is closed this week because of COVID, so I'm actually home earlier than that. But like, dance was open this week. I wouldn't get home until like 9 p.m. and then I have homework to do, and then I wake up at 6 a.m. to go do it all again.
A treadmill.
Yeah, pretty much. And I just don't think, like, I know a lot of kids, teachers, parents, everyone are just like really tired because it's like, whoa, like I forgot.
And there's no balance.
Was like, exactly. And I mean, don't get me wrong, it's great to like go back to school and like see all my buddies and have some sense of like normalcy, but like it's still just exhausting. I mean, the first week of school, I feel like I'm, you know, gradually building up a tolerance, but the first week of school, I would literally go home and, like, take a nap. Because I was just, like, physically exhausted. I was like, whoa, I need to go to bed. And so I would go home and I would take a nap.
Just like you were a geriatric.
Yeah, basically. Literally, I fell asleep when I got home one time, and my dad woke me up 3 hours later, and he was like, Josie, are you okay? And I was like, how long have I been out for? And he was like, 3 hours. And I was like, what?
Now I've got homework to do.
I know. I was like, oh my gosh, it's 8 p.m. I was like, what? So, you know. But yeah, it's definitely a big change. Big change.
Well, maybe, particularly as some of the schools are closing down again.
Oh my gosh, it's crazy. I personally think that North Country is probably next because Derby is closed down, like, you know, closed down. Actually, I got a text from my stepmom that my step-sibling's school is closed down for the rest of the week. They go to Newport.
Right.
And so, like, they're closed down. And, like, I feel like Newport and Derby are, like, the biggest elementary schools, like, in the Northeast Kingdom. And so, like, if they're closed down, like, their kids are a big part of the community.
Right.
And, like, it just seems to be everywhere. Like, the dance studio is closed down. Like, Duncan's closed down, which made me very sad, actually. Although, I don't know if that has to do with COVID or if it's just, like, they're understaffed.
Who knows?
But anyways, they're closed down, which that was really heartbreaking for me. I'm very reliant on Duncan. But anyways, yeah. So I think that North Country's next, which I don't know what's going to happen.
So you just gear up to get started and you're being crashed right back down again.
Yes, exactly. And that, like, just the sense of having, like, no stability
right.
or, like, security of any kind is, like, just tiring on its own. Just, like, constantly flying by the seat of your pants and just, like,
right.
waiting for what's going to happen and not having any set plan
right.
or knowing anything for sure. Like, that's exhausting, constantly having to, like, be flexible all the time, you could say.
And then parents with young children having to stay out of work because no childcare, because school was providing that.
Yep. Literally, I had so many teachers this week who weren't in class because they had to stay home with their kids because school is closed. And they had no other option. And I just felt, like, horrible. And I can only imagine how stressful it is for parents to, like, have to be home with their kids, like, all the time. Like, I don't know what I would do if I was a parent. Like, that on its own also has to be exhausting because, you know, children require a lot of attention, especially if they're just, like, chilling at their house doing nothing. They're probably going to be bored and they're going to be like, Mommy, play with me, Mommy.
Right.
And, like, that's just...
So a parent can't work from home and the kids are supposed to be doing schoolwork from home, but if you have really awful internet access...
That's also a problem. I actually, my AP GoPo teacher, Amy Alexander, do you know her? She last year had horrible internet at her house, and she's a teacher. And like we had this one Google Meet. It was actually really funny, where like she had to stay home, but like we were in class, but like we joined a Google Meet with her while she was at home, and we were all in class, and the internet was just awful. Like things started just making like weird sounds, and like we were all like glitching out, and like it just wasn't working. And so eventually she was just like, bye, and we were like, okay, and because it just like wasn't working out. And like I'm definitely worried about that for when, or like if, I say when because I feel like it's gonna happen, but like if like all of these schools shut down again, because last year it was horrible. Like even the internet at my house was bad. There would be like, it was kind of just like spotty. Like there would be times where like for an hour like my internet just like wouldn't work and I couldn't do anything. And I would just sit there waiting for like my Wi-Fi to like start functioning again.
So parents with multiple kids all trying to log on must make them nuts.
Yup. That's like at my dad's house because I have step siblings. I have two. I have a step sibling and then I have a step brother. And it is wild. Also, being trapped in a house with your siblings all day long is also kind of a nightmare. But I guess you could say it's bonding time if you wanted to look at it that way.
Yeah.
But
so thrown into all of this, it sort of makes more sense that critical race theory right now is just one more thing to push people over the edge.
Exactly. And that's how I feel. That's also how I feel about this. Like, I don't know, it's just like one extra thing to add to the table. And I just feel like everyone just has so much going on. Like, you know, literally every single day, it's like everyone, like, you know, when you ask someone how they are, they're like, I'm tired, I'm stressed, I want to go home, someone get me a Red Bull. And it's like everyone is just like exhausted.
Super caffeine's the answer, is it?
Yeah, yes. I mean, this is bad, but I've been drinking Red Bulls on like on a regular basis. It's not good, but like what else?
No, it's not.
What else are we supposed to do when none of us are getting like an adequate amount of sleep?
And you're seeing all of the adults in your life knocking back caffeine too. So.
Yes, exactly. But yeah, it just seems like everyone is like, ugh, I'm just need like a week-long nap and maybe I'll be good to go. But and I just think that adding, you know, this stress of critical race theory on top of it is just unnecessary because I mean, it's just unnecessary because it's not even a problem that really exists. And so you're just kind of like making a big deal out of this situation that's like not real. Just to add some, you know, just to
put a little spice in
just
there.
to add a little spice, some more stress.
Just what you did.
Yeah.
And maybe that's where some of it's coming from for the adults too, because clearly it's not you younger people who are creating the uproar around this.
No, honestly, I can speak for I feel like I can speak for all teenagers that we are just trying to like get to the next day and just like do our homework on time, and we're just kind of taking it day by day, you know? It's like we're just trying to make sure that we wake up, go to school, do our homework, go to bed. We're trying not to stress out about much more than that because it would be
really
too overwhelming.
Because that's not what it needs. It does
really
not need to be like that.
It really is, honestly. Like, I had started this social justice club at school last year, and I couldn't end up continuing it this year because I didn't have an advisor, so like I technically can't do it without an advisor at the school, and B, like I just didn't have like the emotional and mental energy to like run a whole club like by myself.
Sure.
I was like, I can't do this year, and it's just sad because I think that a lot of kids are feeling that way, where, you know, they're not necessarily as passionate about things that they used to be passionate about because they're just trying to like get through the basics, you know, like go to school, go to sports, go home, do homework, go to bed. Repeat the next day. And I just think that's kind of where all the teenagers at least are at. I can tell you that no teenager has brought critical race theory up to me. Like, no one has been like, hey, let's chit-chat about critical race theory. Not a soul.
What was the social justice club about?
Oh, I I don't know, I just felt like it would be like a cool addition to the school. I was like, Oh, it was all because of this situation. There was someone, I'm not going to say names, but there was someone who had posted a TikTok of themselves saying the N-word. And I found that to be quite problematic. And it was like a whole ordeal where it was like reported or whatever. I guess I told a teacher who had to report it, but like other people had reported it and stuff because it was like, it was a big deal. Like, you shouldn't be doing that. And then I was like, or actually someone, oh God, I forget what their name was, but I was talking to someone about all of this stuff, and they were like, you should start a social justice club at this school. I think our school could use it. And I was like, oh my gosh, you're right.
What a great idea.
I know, I was like, whoa. I was like, that's cool. And so I did, and it didn't last very long, because it was at like the end of the year.
Yeah.
So like,
but it was a great idea.
It was a good idea while it lasted, but once again, I think that everyone was just too, and is too, just like emotionally drained, mentally drained to like think about doing that right now. Like, we don't have the type of energy to like do anything with that at the moment, which I think is okay. And like, I've had some people be like, oh, well, Josie, these are such important issues, like, why don't you do it? And I'm like, yeah, they're important, but like, people's mental and emotional health is like also important, and like sometimes it's okay to like be like, yeah, like I can't do all of these things at once right now, and I just need to like take a step back.
Certainly some very public examples of younger people saying, enough, my mental health is important.
Exactly.
Simone Biles, fabulous example.
Yep. And it's a lot, like, I don't know, it's a lot more necessary than people think. I think people think that, like, I'm guilty of this. Like, throughout my whole life, I've been like, oh my gosh, even if I'm, like, mentally falling apart, I just must keep going. But, like, I've just kind of come to the realization over the past 2 years that, like, it's okay to not be okay, I guess. Like, it's okay to kind of just take a step back and relax and, like, not obsess over things so much. Like, I tend to get, like, really obsessed over my grades. Like, if it's not, like, a perfect, like, A+ or whatever, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so stupid. But, like, this year I've been like, okay, it's okay that I don't have a straight 100. I'm just going to take it day by day. Maybe the grade will go up. Maybe it won't. It's okay. You know? And I just feel like that's something that we have to start teaching kids. You know? Like, say, like, in health class or something. Like, I had a wonderful health teacher this year, or my sophomore year, Tracy Musrall, who taught us stuff like that, and like stress management and all those types of things, and I found it very helpful. But yeah, going back to critical race theory, it doesn't help anything because I feel like it doesn't exist in high schools around here.
That's certainly not taught in the way that was implied.
No, not at all. But yeah, I just don't understand simply why people are bringing this up out of nowhere. Like,
no, and it's certainly applying a lot more pressure to all of you. And it's interesting because in this conversation, it's so clear how much pressure you and presumably all your friends are feeling right now.
Oh, definitely. And teachers too. Like,
sure.
In my AP US history class this year, for our first class, like, my teacher just had to make it like perfectly clear that, like, he was not teaching critical race theory this year, and that he hopes that, like, no one says that. And I just feel bad that he had to, like, even say that, because, like, it's not like it was ever being taught, but he was like, I just feel like I have to give, like, you know, a PSA that, like, I'm not trying to tell anyone how to feel or think or anything like that. Like, it's just sad that they have to, like, do that.
That
like,
is
they feel
really
that they have to
sad.
say that.
To sort of put a disclaimer.
Right, exactly. I was like, wow, the fact that he feels like he has to say that is kind of unfortunate.
That is sad.
And, like, it's just, like, I don't know. It's just this, to me, I feel like it's, like, a really dumb situation, and it doesn't even make any sense, honestly. And, like, I just think that it's funny that it's coming from all of these, like, adults. Because they're not in school, are they? Like, no. I literally have not heard a single teenager be like, yeah, like, we talked about critical race theory in my history class today. I'm so pissed. Like, Miss So-and-so is telling me that I am inherently horrible because I'm white. Like, no one has said that at all. And, yeah, so I just don't understand why, like, these adults who aren't in school are like, yeah, critical race theory is being taught in school. Like, if critical race theory is being taught in school and people have a problem with it, the students will probably say something.
I think you're absolutely right.
Like, I guess that's what I've pretty much been trying to say the whole time, is like,
if there's a problem, you guys will know it and you'll name it.
Exactly. A couple years ago, oh God, I completely forget what it was about, but there were like these students that were like really mad about something at our school, and they went and they like protested and like skipped class like outside of the like supervisory building. Like, the students will vocalize if they are upset about something. Right. And I think they are upset about a lot of other things that aren't a critical race theory.
Right.
Like, there are a lot of other things that we should be focusing our energy towards that are not that.
Right. Well, on that note, we have to end because we're out of time.
Oh, okay.
Doesn't it go fast?
Thank you so much for having me. This was fun.
This was fun.
Yes, thank you.